Hello and welcome to episode 10 of the RF Generation PlayCast for January 2015. This is Grey Ghost 81. For our first show of the new year, we welcome a new member to our playthrough team, our good friend Steven, better known on RF Generation as Disposed Hero, also known as the King of Rage. Welcome to the team. This time around for the retro segment, Rich and Steven are joined by very special guest Duke.Togo to discuss the NES classic Kid Icarus. Duke is the host of the RF Generation Collectorcast, a show which you must listen to if you call yourself a video game collector. On the modern side, Rich, Floyd, Steven, and I learned that you can't judge a book or a game by its cover as we discuss 50 Cent Blood on the Sand for Xbox 360 and PS3. As always, you can listen to the show on Podomatic, iTunes, and YouTube, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook. Log on to rfgeneration.com to join our playthroughs and discuss the awesome games we play. Membership is free, so pop in for a visit. You might find yourself staying for a while. Thank you as always for listening, and now on with the PlayCast.
And welcome. This is the Retro Podcast for 2015 in January. This month we play Kid Icarus, and we've got a special guest with us today to talk about Kid Icarus, Mr. Duke.Togo.
Hey, everybody. I'm as Chris Cantrell, otherwise known as Duke.Togo on the Collectorcast, so I appreciate. Thanks for having me on, Rich. I appreciate it.
Sure. And you want to tell them a little bit about your show for those of you, maybe the few that haven't listened to it yet?
Yeah, if anybody's involved in the PlayCast, they listen or they go into the stuff there on the site, want to play the games. We've been doing the show now for about 3 years. It's the RF Generation Collectorcast. Myself, Bill, and Krabby, we just kind of get together once a month. We, kind of talk about a topic that usually either involves collecting or gaming. Sometimes we have some guests on. We always seem to have fun taking a few questions from the public, a little banter back and forth, and we just kind of have a good time with it. So if you've not checked us out, collectorcast.com. You can also find us on all the major places for podcasts, so, iTunes, Stitcher. You can find the show on YouTube. And I would imagine if you're listening to these guys, maybe you might listen to us as well. But if not, give us a listen. Give us a listen.
Well, thanks for joining us, Chris. I really appreciate it. I've been on your show a few times and really enjoyed it, so now I'm pulling you on here to help us out with the little Kid Icarus, which was our game for the month.
I'll try to plug you guys too. So maybe I'll say, hey, if you want to listen to more of me for some reason.
Yeah, absolutely. I still have to get on that recording too that you suggested I do for our show. So
yeah. Plug. Get a plug away when you can, man. Take it.
We have to plug each other. We're sort of the brother and sister show. They're the sister, of course, and
right.
On RF Generation. So we always have to help each other out when we can, and definitely do appreciate it.
Podcast Inception.
That's right. And also on our show this month is, you've heard him here before, we often call him the Beast because he dominates our playthroughs on RF Generation. Mr. Disposed Hero, or Steven, is joining us this month. And as you know, we lost one of our members in December. Mr. Jamie said farewell to the podcast and to the playthroughs. He'll still join us sometimes, but then again, he's pretty busy in life right now. But we have actually decided to pull on a new member, and not only is Mr. Disposed Hero a guest this month, but he will also be joining us in the playthrough group and on our podcast. So welcome, Steven.
Yeah, thanks, Rich. I had a lot of fun participating in the playthroughs over the past year or so, and I'm excited to be a member now of the playthrough committee. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely, and we're super happy to have you. Super happy to have someone who can really put it to the games like you do, and anyone who follows our threads, Steven has really knocked him out over over the years in 2013 and 14. So really nice to have you aboard, bud.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. So this month, like I said, we played Kid Icarus. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the game, a little bit of the history, and Chris can tell me where I pronounce things wrong.
All right. I'll try. I'll try.
All right. So this game was developed by Toru Osawa. Osawa, yes, okay. And Nintendo's Research and Development Team 1, and that was a very popular team. They are probably most famous for developing Metroid. And Metroid was actually put out right before this game in a sort of a rush. Kid Icarus was actually released in December of 1986 in Japan on the FDS, and it was called Hikari Shinwa Poletta no Kagami, which roughly translates to Myth of Light, the Mirror of Paul Latina, which is actually a really cool name. How did we get Kid Icarus? Who knows?
Because no one on Earth is educated enough in the U.S. to know who on Earth Palatina is.
Yeah,
or anything else. But we know Icarus, and we know that story, so
Sure.
sure. It's Greek-ish.
Greekish, even though this game has nothing to do with that Icarus myth.
It has nothing to do with it
Nothing to do with it at all. It does have something to do with another myth, which we will talk about a little bit later when we get into the story. Let's see, this was released in North America in July of 1987. It's a 2D action platformer with role-playing elements, which is sort of bizarre.
And shooter elements, which is even stranger, but yeah.
Yeah, and you wouldn't think of this as being a role-playing game, and I don't think I knew it was a role-playing game or had role-playing elements until I played it this time. So, bizarre. Again, we'll get into some of those elements as we go through the show, and I actually have the scoring system written down, so yeah, get ready for that.
Yeah, definitely.
There was a Game Boy sequel in 1991, and then Kid Icarus series was dormant for 21 years until the 3DS version of Kid Icarus Uprising. But of course, Kid Icarus has appeared in numerous Smash Brother games for all you Smash Brother bros out there who love to smash your brothers and whatnot.
Super fashion. There you go.
You fighter people thingies. But it was, again, I'd mentioned that this game was kind of rushed, and I think it was Jerry Greenwood who brought up on our forum. He said that to meet the game's projected release date of December 19th, 1986, the staff members worked overtime and stayed in the office at night, and they used cardboard boxes as beds and curtains, wrapped themselves in curtains for sheets because the temperature was so low, and the building was unheated.
And from what I understand, that's pretty common in Japan to not have heat in a lot of homes and buildings.
Right.
So, yeah, that's dedication.
Pretty much.
Yeah, and I think Tosei may have had something to do with this too. Tosei was developed a lot of Nintendo games, but they were kind of like a like a house that you would hire out programmers just to do games and farm out some work. So I think they had some involvement. And Tosei is known for some pretty ungodly games as well. But hey, I guess they just do whatever they're paid to do.
Now was he the one? I think someone mentioned that in the rooms in this game where you have the just the sort of enemies that you can kill for the big hearts, like the sort of like Groucho Marx looking figures. Someone had mentioned that that those things were sort of modeled after him and his look, and that was sort of a throwback to him.
That I don't know, but
sort of an inside joke.
Speck Nose, those bad guys.
Yes, right? The Speck Nose. But Osawa, who developed this game, I had read that he also had kind of he'd been developing this game for a while, and he worked on it alone for a long time before they brought Research and Development 1 in to help him out. And so he did a lot of this game, and this is sort of his child, if you will. So it's a bizarre game in many ways, but it has a cult following, though, even though it's gotten sort of mixed reviews, and
I love it.
Yeah, I do too. And speaking of which, you and I have played it before, but Steven, right? First time?
Yep, first timer.
First timer.
How'd that go for you?
It was very rough at first, but it got easier as I went along. Started to like it a lot more.
That's Nintendo hard right there.
Yeah, he finished last night, actually.
Oh! It was like,
Yeah,
oh crap, I got to do this
brought
before
it down
the
to
show.
the wire.
But you know what? He got the best ending, though. So there you go.
I saw
mean,
that.
it's
right.
like, I was thinking, like, wait, did I beat a game that Steven's not going to beat before the call?
Hey, I just want to say, who was first?
That's true. Yeah.
That's right.
But it doesn't count because you did not play on a North American Nintendo.
I played on the Nintendo system. Thank you very much.
One of those guys.
That's right. All original, baby. All original.
So speaking of people that played the game, let me just throw out the list of participants that we had. Of course, Disposed Hero, who finished the game. Duke, who finished the game. Engineer Mike has finished the game so far. We're about half of the month over, so there's still plenty of time for those that haven't finished. High Wind is playing the game. Jerry Greenwood has finished the game. Metal Fro actually finished the game. And I don't know how to pronounce this name. You guys will probably see him on the site. It's NXCMP. Like Next Camp or something? I don't know.
Make up whatever fun thing you like. That's what we do.
We'll pull a bill. Okay, and Retro Rage is playing. Rusly Man, Mr. Russ Lyman, has finished the game. Silent Scythe is playing, and yours truly, the Banana, has finished the game as well. And so just to start out with, just kind of give a basic plot summary of the game. It's basically, you're sent to obtain 3 sacred treasures to help rescue Paltina, who is sort of the goddess of light, and Medusa is the goddess of the dark. Your goal is to save Angel Land. You start off in the underworld, and you break out, and you try to make your way to the Sky Palace to defeat Medusa and rescue Palutena, excuse me.
Palutena.
Yeah,
you know what strikes me as odd? Like, a lot of these games have some sort of prep. I mean, but it's weird. Like, Zelda at least has, like, the little opening text scroll. But, like, Metroid and Kid Icarus, nothing, right? There's no intro. There's no nothing. It's just like, here, read the manual, or you have no clue.
Well, you know what would be the best intro for this game? I thought of it today as I was writing these notes because I wrote down Jailbreak, and I was thinking, man, a Thin Lizzy Jailbreak song would be great right here.
What? Okay. It's not 50 Cent, but...
No, it's not 50 Cent. or 50 Cent, I think,
50.
is the correct pronunciation.
Mr. Cent.
Mr. Cent. So I'd mentioned before that, you know, it's called Kid Icarus, but there's nothing... there are no mazes, there are no minotaurs, there are no flying too close to the sun and crashing and burning down. There is no Iron Maiden.
He does fly at certain points.
He does.
That's about it.
That's it.
His dad's not around.
Yes, but this myth does it. Obviously, it's a Grecian game. It has a Grecian theme, and it does borrow a little from the Perseus myth. Perseus, of course, is the one who was sent to slay Medusa, had the mirror shield, the winged shoes from Hermes, which you somewhat get on the last level, or it's more of a helmet that has the wings on it, if I remember correctly, sort of.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I didn't pay that close attention. It's just that giant stinking shield and the wings flying out of his back, right? So
Right.
He's got some armor, but he does have a helmet on.
Right. Yes.
We're getting ahead of ourselves, though.
So, just what did you guys think about the story? I mean, I know, Duke, that you mentioned, you just kind of get thrown into it, and that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, having played this as a kid, because, it was like all kids back then, you had maybe 5 games, and then you had access to whatever your other friends had, you could trade. And luckily, one of my close friends that lived like a block away, they had Kid Icarus, so we would swap, and so I played a lot of Kid Icarus back in the day, so I got really pretty good at it and was really comfortable with it to the point where, you just beat them over and over, and,
right.
And that's kind of one of those nice games where you can do that, keep your power-ups, go through the game again, see how well you can do. So, I was really pretty familiar with it coming back. This time around, I wanted to get a little bit of a different take on it, so I played the Famicom Disk System version just to kind of see what the differences were, but, If the story is simple, there's not a whole lot to it. Go kill stuff, don't die, which is probably the key to most NES games, I guess, at the time. And especially when it came out, I mean, I think if you think about it, it's a pretty complex game for 86.
Hold on, I'm writing this down. Kill stuff.
Don't die.
Die.
So don't die. Don't
Would you
die,
say that's
kill
accurate,
stuff.
Steven?
Yes, I actually read the manual before playing the game,
Yes.
and it said more stuff, but that's pretty much what it boils down to: kill stuff, don't die.
It's like,
The latter being pretty difficult in this game.
And I think that was very common with older games like back then. And I know, like, especially with Atari, there's all these like little taglines that I never read. I mean, I just popped in the games when I was a kid, and pretty much still do. I'm not a manual guy. I don't collect paper, love it or not. But I feel like, a game like this, it's sort of important to have things like the manual, because that's usually where your story lies. Like with this and Metroid and Legend of Zelda, a lot of your story's in the manual before you even start the game.
yeah, and resources like the official Nintendo Player's Guide, right? It's got a
Right.
lot of information about Kid Icarus in there. It was one of their big titles at the time, and that's why I actually pulled my old one off the shelf and used it to play in the playthrough. So.
Yeah, well, that's cool. I have that Nintendo guide too. That was what came with my. Actually, I found it last year. Finally, I found a cheap one locally. I had been looking for one for a long time, because when I bought my original Nintendo, that's what it came with. I didn't have a game with mine, so which really
Wah,
sucked.
wah.
Yeah, it was really bad. I had to.
Here, why don't you read about all the games you can't play? And bug your parents. Go buy all of them.
Look at what you can't afford.
That's right. Merry Christmas to you, kid. Stay at home. Read the book.
But I have an interesting history with this game, and I think I mentioned this on our last show at the end. I was like, kind of stick around, listen next month when we play Kid Icarus, because I've got a very interesting story about this game. And I hope my parents aren't listening to this. I beat this game when I was really young. I was, I think, 11 years old. But as we all know, this game is very frustrating. I was in my retro store the other day, and I said, yeah, we're playing Kid Icarus this month. I always tell them what we're playing, And the manager, the girl that works there, is like, oh, she's like, that's cool. She's like, my kid... I think he's like just under being a teenager. She's like, oh, my kid, he plays Smash Brothers. So I bought him Kid Icarus for Christmas because so he would know where that character came from. And I thought he would enjoy the game. I'm like, he is going to hate you for that. I mean, he's going to rage quit that game in like 2 days. I mean, no doubt.
Oh, come on, man.
Well, my story goes, when I was playing this when I was 11, I was so frustrated with the game. I'm kind of that guy that like half throws controllers. I want to throw them so bad, and I end up not, because I realize the monetary value of controllers at some point in that motion. But instead of throwing the controller when I was a kid or kicking the Nintendo, I had a folding chair in my room that I would sit in and play so I could be closer to the TV. And I kicked the chair, the front of the chair, and it folded straight up, and it sat there straight for like 3 seconds, and then it started tilting backwards and went through my bedroom window.
So you had like that slow motion moment, like, no.
Yeah, exactly. And it broke out one of the panes in my window, and
Whoops.
I was like, I can't remember what I told them had happened. But
What lie did you dish up?
I think I said, the chair just fell over or something. I did not tell them that it had anything to do with the video game. So, but
Smart move.
This time through, I got a Retron 5 for Christmas. So my wife would just like watch me play and just get frustrated. I was stuck on 1-2 for such a long time, and I would just like act like I was throwing my controllers, or just hold it in my hand like I was like about to break it. But you do that, but you never break the controller. You just act like you're going to do it. And I looked over, and just the looks I was getting is just, it's like, oh, wow, I've never seen this side of this guy before,
Who is this man-child in my living room?
Anything like that for you, Steven? Did you have any of those frustrating moments where you just wanted to throw your controller?
Yes,
just from a first-time perspective.
That reminded me a lot of myself. I actually did throw the controller down once, and it bounced off some metal object, made a big clang sound. I'm surprised it didn't break, but I had my moments.
And that's something we were kind of talking about before the call, and I guess that would be a good kind of segue into this, just the difficulty of this game. And you were saying some things about that, so I'll let you touch on that.
Yeah, it's this game's odd compared to a lot of other games in that typically your easier levels are at the beginning of the game, your easier and more accessible levels, while this game, the first levels are brutally difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's very inaccessible for a lot of players just starting the game. And it actually gets really easy towards the end. At least I thought so. And of course, most games are the opposite; they get much more difficult at the end. And I just thought that was an odd design choice they made. But.
Yeah. And that was the thing, and that I fought with myself. I was like, do I really want to do Kid Icarus this month? Do I really want to put people through the things I went through as 11
put
year old?
them through. Come on, man. It's not that bad.
It's a tough game. I think for people who did not.
I think there's some whiny people. It's not that bad.
It's
not that bad.
It's pretty bad.
It's not.
It's pretty bad in places.
Oh, come on.
But
man.
And that's not a complaint. I mean, that's a part of what I love about it. This was one of those games where when I was a kid and I beat it, you'd go to school and you'd be on the playground or whatever, and all your buddies that you swap games with and stuff's like, oh, I beat Kid Icarus last night, and they're like, no way. No way. No one believes that you beat Kid Icarus. Well, where did you get that code from to the last level, or whatever. But it's one of those games that really gives you an overwhelming sense of accomplishment when you do beat it. I mean, it feels great.
Mm-hmm.
But the good thing about the playthroughs and playing this as a group, and the reason I'm glad we played as a group is that it was very encouraging, I think, to a lot of people who probably might have picked this game up at some point, played it for a while, gotten really frustrated, and put it down, and never finished it. But because it is a lot more difficult than other games.
Yeah, I would have quit playing this game if it wasn't a community playthrough game.
But like I said, it's very encouraging, and there was a lot of, hey, just get past. If you get past 1-3,
yeah,
you're good.
That's the stopper, I think.
Yeah, it's downhill from there.
I think they could have, if they would have just somehow added health drops randomly, that probably would have really evened it out. But or even just added like one of those cup health refills somewhere in 1-3 period. That probably would have made life a little easier. But I probably had to do 1-3 over again maybe 6 times, but it's not that bad, right?
Yeah. I beat it on my second play.
It
was just unbelievable. I was on 1-2 forever. I must have played that, I don't know, 20 plus times.
Oh, wow, really?
Well, yeah, and for me it was because I was going for the good ending too.
Oh,
so I was trying to accumulate points early. Trying to get my health bar up early.
Yep.
And get my arrow upgrades, which the first one's pretty easy to get anyway.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It took a while to do that. And what's painstaking about that is that you're killing all these enemies, and you're killing the repop enemies, because they'll pop again 3 to 4 times, I think, usually.
Yeah, and usually about 4 cycles of them you'll get.
Yeah. And so I'm killing all of them, and I'm slowly making my way up, and then I die, and I'm like, holy crap, I've spent 15 minutes on this level, now I have to start completely over again.
Yeah, and with one thing of health, 1 unit of health, right?
Right. And that's the thing about... That's another thing. There are no checkpoints, there are no midway points where you're going to start. You have to start that whole board completely over.
Yeah.
And so that's another thing that makes this game so, frustrating, I think, for newcomers to it. The other thing that I think is sort of the landscape of the game, and one of the things I noticed in the game where the sort of the platforms, you've got some platforms that are solid.
Yeah.
And you've got others that are sort of, I don't know, cloud-like, I guess, sort of, transparent. Where like,
okay, answer this, guys.
Okay.
How many times did you accidentally push down and fall through something that you didn't mean to?
A few times.
That happened to me in World 3 on one of those clouds. I just tried to duck. I didn't know you could fall through them. I tried to duck under a projectile or something, and I fell off the screen. Fortunately, I had a feather, so I didn't actually die.
Yeah.
But, I was surprised by that.
Yeah, the first time you do that, you're like, oh no. And I think the worst one for me is that one where like in the ice level, because there's like a bunch of them, and you've got the snowmen that are shooting at you, and you want to duck.
Yes.
You so badly want to duck, but you can't.
Absolutely. I was going to say the same thing. That's where I took it. I took it one time. This time I was very careful. And you're always like trying new things out. You're like, can I duck on this? Or, you never know. Like the moving platforms and stuff, you can actually duck on those.
Yeah.
But it's that, ability to play this game and to, recount and remember where can I duck and where can I not? And your brain just does not catch up that fast. It doesn't catch up with your reflexes on your hands. You're going to do it, without thinking about it. So,
and I think a lot of people, when they play this game, they start getting a little frustrated, and they think, okay, I'm just going to try to run to the exit as fast as I can to get through this. And I think that's like the most horrible way to play this game you can play it.
Yeah, you got to play it slow.
Yeah. It is. It's a very patient game.
I agree. It's very I think what I had written down in my notes here is a very finesse game. I think.
Yeah.
And that's probably the best way I would say to describe everything's finesse. Like we were talking about the platforms to the controls to the jumping, and there's a lot of jumping at the beginning too. A lot of tight jumps. Did you guys see the post that I put on the threads about something my friend said to me last week? About the little secret to jumping and sticking the landings?
Oh, I knew about that, actually.
You did? Oh, well, thanks for telling everyone.
What?
Chris.
No,
really
hey,
appreciate
no
it.
spoilers.
Thanks for sharing on the forums, buddy.
No spoilers,
Thanks.
but it works on ice. It makes you stop on ice, too.
Yeah, it makes you stop on everything, and it's it's just like a dead stop. It's like, and it's like a stick. It's like Mary Lou Retton.
Yeah. Works great on the ice levels.
Yeah, I don't think I saw that till after I finished the game, so it didn't help me very much. But.
You should go back and play level 1 and just try out the jumps and do it.
Yeah.
And when you jump in the air, just hold up. And if you just hold up on your jumps, you will just like, even if your toe is barely on there. And like my friend said, because when you're jumping in this game, a lot of times you'll try to adjust. You try to adjust back and forth, and that's where you screw yourself.
Yeah, and he kind of almost takes that little half step or something once he lands.
Yes.
There's a little bit of movement there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and even if it's not an ice world, there's always that just little like half step of movement like you were talking about.
Yeah. I always felt like Pit felt very slippery when you were trying to jump around. It always felt like I was moving on ice most of the time.
Yeah.
Well, how did you feel about like overall with the controls on this game?
They were pretty good. I thought they could have been tightened up a little bit. But they weren't horrible. They were pretty responsive.
Yeah. I know sometimes when I would go from shooting up to shooting side to side, I'd have a little bit of problem, and I felt the game does feel a little bit stiff in the movement sometimes. But I think that had a little more to do with the controller I was playing with than anything else. So.
Yeah, I think Pit kind of moves in a way that's very different from a lot of the other games of that era that you're used to. So you do kind of have to wrap your mind around, okay, because the way the jump works is just it doesn't accelerate, right? He just sort of has a linear speed as he moves through the jump. It's not like Mario where it's a little faster, a little slower, and you kind of have to, and you can't do a whole lot, once you're jumping. I mean, you can. It's tougher to correct, I think, than some of these other games. He
does a strange little jump, this little leg kick kind of thing, where he just kind of almost lunges instead of jumps, and it's a really kind of an outward jump as opposed to something that's sort of, more vertical. I feel like it's completely different from any other games that are kind of on that system. Well, so we'll move on. We'll talk a little about the weapons in the game. You start off with a standard bow, and that's pretty much your trusty weapon throughout the game, and you basically kind of upgrade around that. And once again, adding to more difficulty in the game, it has a very, very limited range.
At least when you start, yeah. It's pretty short, and it's pretty weak when you're starting out.
Yeah. So the big thing and the big upgrades is you're going to find most of those. I know we talked about you get the 3 sacred treasures, but those are held by the bosses, and those don't get broken out until the very last level of the game. But you do have these sort of training room items that you can obtain, sort of like the danger room in X-Men.
Something like that.
Yeah, these big sort of walls tumbling at you, and if you can make it through there without dying, which I highly encourage everyone playing this game, play the training rooms. You're going to really enjoy the upgrades that you get from those. You get basically 3 different items. There's the there's the crystals, and then there's the fire that circles your arrow, and then there's the longbow. Okay,
so now let me ask you guys, those training rooms to me are like ridiculously simple. Did you guys have any problems with those whatsoever?
I get hit a few times every once in a while, but I feel like I think I would stay sort of like to the right, like maybe 3 blocks over, and I would just keep firing up, and then I could fire like to the left, and it wasn't so bad. Is there any secret to that?
Well, I kind of stand just to the right of the god guy, you know, where he would be. And basically, none of them will hit you from the top. All you have to do is watch out for the weird occasional one that will come from left or right.
Yeah.
So you can just kind of sit there and just wait, and every once in a while one will come towards you, you shoot them, and life is pretty easy.
Yeah.
I didn't have too much trouble with it. I would take a couple hits, but for the most part, I'd always make it through.
Yeah, I think probably the first one's the toughest, but after you got some health upgrades.
Yeah.
And I posed this question on the forums. I got a few answers to it, but was there any certain order that you guys use as far as your upgrades? Which ones that you...
I do. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah.
I always go crystals first.
Yep.
And then longbow, and then fire to me is pretty worthless, so it's always the last one I get.
Yeah. It doesn't add any strength to your arrow, just gives it a little more girth, if you will.
That's a nice way to say it.
Yeah, it just gives it a little, you don't want to say range because you could say that's long, but it makes your arrow a little thicker, I guess, because it circles it and allows you to increases your hitbox on your arrow. That's a real technical video game way to say it, don't you think? Is that video gamey? Hitbox. I use the word hitbox.
Is that the same order you went in, Steven? Was that, or did you go in a different one?
No, I didn't know what any of them actually did when I was first playing the game.
Oh, did you not read your manual, Steven?
I read it, but I've forgotten. So but I think I got the bow, then the fire arrow, and then the gem shield thing. And I remember when I first got the bow, of course, when you first get it, it doesn't do anything. So I was like, what did this do? I got this item and it's not doing anything. It was a waste. I should have got something else.
Yet another bizarre mechanic in this game.
Yeah, none of the upgrade items actually start to function until you hit full health.
Right.
And then they work. Except in the palaces.
I didn't know that at the time.
Except in the palaces.
Yeah, for some reason. there's a spell on the palaces that
that's where the bad guys
keep these
live,
special weapons from working. Who knows?
Right. Medusa's evil powers.
Yes, it's oh gosh, yeah. And the best part is I can't remember who on the thread said it, but they said, "Well, I can't." They're like, I didn't know until the other day that you could actually get in that. I thought that was lava in those rooms. I didn't know you could get in it, and it was the spas.
Oh, no.
I was like, so you never got to use any of those weapons.
Oh, man. And there's like tons of them in World 2, like towards the front to fill up. Oh, man.
Yeah, World 2, the world you don't need them on.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Oh, and that's the tough thing about this game, too, because you don't get, like, health refills between levels or anything. No. It's just like, nope, good luck, man.
Yeah. And you die, and you just get that one block.
Yeah.
So
But
we'll talk a little bit about, I guess, some of the other rooms in the game as well. We talked about the training room. We did mention the sacred items, and but there's other rooms in the game too. One was the pot room. I guess the pots with the question marks on them.
Yeah, the treasure room.
The treasure room. I can't remember what that's called.
I think it's just the treasure room.
Or the little Reaper guy. He's got a little name, but
oh yeah, it's the
god of poverty. Yes, that's
yes,
it. God of poverty.
God of poverty.
So the way this works is you hit all the pots, and if you can do that without unveiling the god of poverty, you can hit the last one where the god of poverty would be, and you get something special, which is usually in the form of the feather, those are nice, as Steven mentioned, especially when you make some really crazy mistakes in pushing down. Those can really save you.
Yeah, because for those that don't know the game, when you scroll like up the vertical levels, you can't go back down. So if you just touch the bottom of the screen, it kills you.
Yeah. That upward scroll, it's over.
Yeah.
It's over if you go to the bottom of the
you're
screen.
like, I know there's a platform 1 millimeter below the screen. It's right there.
Don't you love it when you fall and you're like, crap, I'm dead, and then you're still like hanging on somehow? You're like, oh my gosh, I can't move left or right because I don't know
where it is.
I don't know how long this platform is.
Yeah, or the feather kicks in, and you're hitting the button like crazy, like fly.
So I'm trying to remember I know there's one really special item you get besides the feather.
There's one that you can only get in there, and that's the credit card.
Yep.
Which allows you to go negative on hearts. You can also get the barrel and bottle.
The bottle, right? Okay. Okay. And the barrel is basically like it's a barrel, and it holds up to 8 of the life bottles. Which, when you die, the life bottle, I think it replenishes 1 bar of your health. I think that's right, or 1 block of your health.
1 block.
Yeah.
Per bottle.
Which is nice, and it's really good to spend money in this game. I know that sounds very bizarre, but it's very good to spend some money in this game, and I'll tell you why. But did any of you use the credit card before we kind of go any further?
I did.
You did? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I used it to stock up on bottles whenever I could.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to find it early on, and I pretty much did the same thing, just bought bottles with it.
Huh.
Yeah, I'd always keep like a feather or 2, but mostly bottles.
Yeah, I ended up getting it in my run, but I never used it. I always had, usually had plenty of hearts, or, would always have enough money, so I never had to use it, thank goodness. But yeah, I definitely ended up finding it at some point in the game. So it's a really weird mechanic, and not only that, it doesn't really fit in with the theme.
The Greeks didn't use credit cards?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Come on.
Well, Fred Flintstone had a card, didn't he?
Boy, you got me. I'll have to go back and play Dino Peak again.
But the final room was the there were enemy rooms too, which we've already sort of mentioned, where you can just kill enemies to max out on some really upgrade your hearts. I believe there's 10 enemies a room, so that was an easy 100 hearts.
Yeah.
I say easy, but you really, it's sort of risk or reward going in those rooms, right?
Especially early on, because you only have 1 bar of health, and they hit pretty hard.
Yeah. And then there's the final room is the arrow upgrade room as well, which, depending on your wacky score, will determine whether you get an arrow upgrade or not. If you walk in a room and it's completely empty, chances are your score is not high enough on that level to actually get an arrow upgrade.
That's right.
So the arrow upgrade, it does a few things. It allows your shots on your arrow to be stronger, increases your strength if you get it, and it changes your color, which is pretty cool.
It is nice.
Yeah.
Easy way to identify that, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Green, that's the first one, like green, right? Like, oh my gosh, what?
Yeah. So now I'm just waiting for someone to make me all the Kid Icaruses in perler beads.
Would it be Kid Icarus or Kid Icaruses? Pits. I think you could say pits.
Pits.
There you go.
Yes, pits.
Well, what about a couple of the other rooms, though? I'm kind of curious if you guys did this stuff. So there's the shops, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And there's the black market shop.
Yes.
Did any of you guys use the bargaining trick?
I do not know about the bargaining trick. Please
Steven?
enlighten us.
Yeah,
Do you know?
I don't know what that is. So.
All right. So here you go. In the shops, you can bargain for a cheaper price. So if you have the NES version, on the second controller, I believe it's select that you push. And if you have a Famicom, you have to actually yell into the second controller microphone.
Of course.
Of course, to intimidate him into giving you a lower price. But it's based off of your strength in the level. So if your strength is higher than the level number, then they'll bargain with you. So you get cheaper prices.
Wow. Interesting.
There you go.
That would have been helpful to know about. Yeah.
Well, I can't I can't tell you guys before the show comes out. I'd give away all my secrets.
One of the is you guys have played the game, you know that there are these enemies called Plutons that steal your training room items.
And you can't kill them.
No, you can't kill them. You just and they're random. They pop out. Well, they pop out in the same places, but their patterns are very random. Sometimes they move slow, sometimes they move quick. They just kind of lunge at you, and so it stinks. And I had something stolen from me.
Oh, did you?
This playthrough, yes. And I did not know this, but I was like, "Oh man, I got to restart this level again." This was actually 2-2, where there's that really quick arrow upgrade that's really tough to get.
Yeah, you got to grind and really hit all those rock guys that fall.
Yeah. And so I had it stolen. I had my I think my longbow stolen there. I was like, "Oh crap, what am I gonna do?" Well, I went into the next door. And lo and behold, it was a black market, and there it was. You can actually repurchase those items that were stolen. I never knew that until this playthrough.
Yep, that's what the black market is there for, besides also selling you barrels, which you usually can't get in the regular store.
Yeah, there's black marketers and there's Plutons, working together in cohorts.
on the air world, where they had the flying ones?
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. Yeah, tricky.
Yeah.
Tricky.
They're easier to deal with, though. If you kind of jump up to the left or right of them far enough,
if
you jump up the side of them and just come straight down and wait, they'll shoot across the screen and go away.
Right.
Which they're fairly easy to deal with, so that didn't bother me, as much.
How about you, Steven? Did you get anything stolen?
I think when I first played level 2, I had something stolen, but I think I died anyway, so I had to restart the level. And then, after that, I never had anything stolen. I found their pattern to be pretty predictable, and I was able to get around them. But
it's just being at the right spot so you can kind of hop over them when they come by, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I think when you're prepared.
Or allow them to jump in the water, in the ice water.
Yeah, right. See ya.
So, well, we've kind of skimmed around it and mentioned it a few times, but I wanted to talk about the scoring system. And if you gentlemen look at your outlines that I sent you for this call, you will see the letters WTF with a question mark.
That's right.
So, the scoring system in this game is twofold.
Mm-hmm.
There is an XP system.
Yes.
And there is a strength system. The XP system basically is for powering up, which happens at the end of each level. If you score enough points, then you will get an additional bar. And I think, how many bars can you have? Is it up to 7 or?
I think just 4.
Is it?
Or maybe 5.
5. I think it's 5. I think it's 5.
Yeah, it's the first one plus I think 4 more.
Yes, it's 5. It is 5. I've got it written down here. And then the strength system with the XP is for arrow upgrade. And just let me give you just kind of an idea of what this upgrade system is. It's the most bizarre thing ever.
Did you look it up?
I did.
Oh.
I was so interested. Someone actually took the ROM and hacked it to figure out what this system was. Someone actually took the time.
I mean, I kind of knew like the vagaries of it, but I'm curious to hear like the scientific part of it. Okay,
here it is. And what whack job came up with this, I have no idea. It's very interesting.
We'll blame Tose.
Okay, so listen. Okay, this is for your strength upgrades for your arrows. Okay, here's how the points are calculated. You get negative 300 points for taking damage, except for damaged tiles in those rooms and lava.
Okay.
You get minus 10 for firing an arrow. Duke, you were correct.
Yeah, I know accuracy is a part of it.
Yes, and I did not know that, and I remember you mentioned it on the forums. So like, no way, no, there's no way. But
This
yes.
game is much more shooter than people give it credit for.
Yes. Negative 500 for breaking a jar in the treasure chamber. So not only are you going in there to do the treasure quest, but you get negative 500 for every one of those pots that you break.
Wow, and you also lose hearts when you shoot those. You lose 10 hearts every time you shoot a pot.
Wow. Okay. I didn't realize that either.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if you're trying to get the arrow upgrade on 2-2, that really early one, do not go in the treasure room.
Skip it.
Yeah, skip that. You get plus 300 for entering a holy chamber. You get plus 100 for defeating an enemy that drops a small heart, plus 300 for an enemy with a half heart, and plus 500 for an enemy with a big heart.
Oh.
You get 100 for collecting a small heart. You get... So not only do you... When you kill the enemies that drop the hearts, but you have to obtain the hearts, too, to get more points. Plus 300 for collecting half heart, plus 500 for collecting a big heart. But the caveat is you can't go over 999 points or you don't get those experience points.
Do you mean it rolls over?
No. If you... Okay, let's say you have... If you have to have less than 989 points to collect a big heart and get plus 500 points. If you get that heart and it rolls up to 999, anything after that you don't get experience for. So that's what I'm saying. You have to use the shops to your advantage. You have to spend that money.
Oh,
you can't
the
just
hearts.
Hold on to it. Yes.
The hearts. Yeah.
Yeah. So you stop getting experience points for collecting hearts if you have too many.
Oh, I see what you're saying there. So it makes sense to spend them.
Yes.
Wow. I did not know that.
Yeah.
All right.
You get 100 plus for collecting a mallet. And those are dropped, when you hit the harp.
Yeah, we need to talk about those at some point. Yeah.
Absolutely. You get plus 1,000 for collecting or buying back a weapon.
Huh.
You get plus 100 for buying anything in a shop except for a glass or a weapon. Plus 300 for entering the score tally screen.
Okay.
And plus,
how could that help you?
I don't know.
Because the level's over. Why would they even do that?
I have no idea. And then plus 8,000 for killing a boss. So,
which also happens at the end of a level. That must be, though, because that first one in 1-1, after you beat Medusa, you can wrap back around and get it. So that must be why. Yeah.
Well, it says in these notes that this person, it says redundant. And I guess that means, like, what's the point? Like you just said.
Right, exactly.
So now, what I just explained, that's just the strength upgrades for the arrows.
Which is a hidden stat.
Right. Completely hidden.
Yeah.
And then the other hidden stat is how you get your power up.
Well, that's not hidden.
A little. You don't think?
No, at least not in the Famicom version, it's not. I don't know about...
Well, it shows your power up, but it doesn't tell you how many points you have to have, right?
It doesn't show you how many you have to have, but it shows, at least on the Famicom version, it shows the point total that you have.
Okay, yes. And it does on the Nintendo version as well.
Yeah, but I know it's just like a cumulative amount then when you get a upgrade, right?
Yeah.
Like every so much.
20,000, 50,000, 100,000, and 200,000 are basically your levels of your score levels to actually get your power up. So the advantage of taking it slow in this game from the onset is that you can actually power up fairly quick in the game, and it makes the game easier as you go through it, even though the first part of it's so hard, which is bizarre. But there it is.
You're weak,
There is the bizarre scoring system of Kid Icarus. Any thoughts, gentlemen?
Wow. I mean, I knew about some of it just from, I remember way back when, and I don't know, Nintendo Power, or maybe it was the Player's Guide or something. They kind of give you some hints.
Right.
About how to get the upgrades and like accuracy is important and kill as many guys as you can, that sort of stuff.
I think there's some clue. I think there are clues in the instruction manual too. You know how like those instruction manuals for the Nintendo, at the back of them they'll have, well, how do I do so and so? You know, it would be like this like third person thing where like the manual's talking to itself, and you're like, okay, you know, well, how do
The
I do
game
so-and-so?
counselor's like, man, you got to put this in or they're screwed.
Yeah, exactly. So there's that part of it too.
Steven, you scoring?
I had no idea there were so many intricacies to it. As far as I knew, you kill bad guys, you get points. That was as far as I took it.
So, and that's a big difference too between the NES and the Famicom version, because on the Famicom version, there's actually a high score screen.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not very good, as I can tell by looking at my disc. There were some people that were much better than me. Much better.
You didn't erase those people?
No, of course not, right?
Well, that's not what when I get a new pinball machine, I erase all the high scores.
Well, you know, I erase some of the save games, but you can't erase the high score table.
Oh, okay. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, did you want to talk about the hammers, or are we going to come back to that a little bit later?
Sure, let's talk about the hammers.
All right. I want to hear this from Steven first, though. Did you have any clue what on earth those were for?
Did you figure it out?
No, when I got to the maze levels, I had since they were so maze-like, I had watched a YouTube video to see how to get through them. So I saw people
okay,
bashing those statues. And, yeah, I didn't really care too much to collect them because I didn't think those angel guys were very helpful against the bosses anyway, because the bosses were so easy.
They were really easy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like kind of pathetically easy, really, honestly.
Especially the first one. If you get behind him, that's the end of it, right?
I know. He won't turn around.
Yeah, it's oddly bizarre. The third boss, it's a little bit of a challenge just because you're limited in reach, you know. But that's about it. The second one's is a pattern. His name he drew.
Yeah.
And Pandora is the third one, which I don't understand.
That doesn't make any sense.
It makes no sense. And Twin Bellows is the first one, which it has two heads, so I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm going to guess they probably had pretty cool Japanese names, and when they got to the U.S., somebody was like, I don't know, Pandora sounds Greek.
Let's call it Happy Smiley Slime Face.
It was like Speck Nose? I mean, come on, man. Because he's got glasses and a big nose. Spectacles. Okay, fine. Whatever.
Well, we can talk a little about the enemies too. I mean, in the maze levels, you also have the dreaded but very memorable eggplant wizards. I mean, it's probably the most memorable enemy from this game.
Yeah, and how many? I don't throw controllers, but how many times? That's when you want to throw the controller. When you're like, just every time, and you have to go find the stupid hospital, and then figure your way back again. Oh, man.
My story before about throwing the controller was directly caused by the eggplant wizard.
Seriously? Oh, and
I posted that it took me well over an hour to get through 1-4, and it was just because I kept getting turned into an eggplant.
I think that's the worst one, if you ask me. I mean, there's more eggplant wizards in 3, but they're not in as bad a place as I think as they are in 1.
And they always put them near the end, too. They always put them, like, right when you're near the boss.
One thing that helps in the later ones, though, is that you have the arrow upgrade, so they take fewer hits to kill.
Yeah, those first ones, and you can't really, try to run past them, because forget about it. You're going to get hit, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And then you're like, okay, I'm going to spend 6 million hours looking for the hospital, and I can't attack.
I would just kill myself when I got turned into an eggplant.
Really?
I figured, by the time I run all the way to the nurse and then came back, it would just take less time to kill myself and start from the beginning.
Yeah, because it's always a huge backtrack.
Yeah.
That's interesting. See, I would always just go, because usually there's a spa close by the hospital. So I would hit the spa, heal up, and then give it another shot.
Get a mani, get a petty.
That's right, a petty. That's right. Kid Icarus needs some nice looking nails to fight Medusa.
But I guess, for the most part, I mean, the enemies are interesting. They're fairly standard fare. A lot of them have, specific patterns that are, fairly easy to figure out. You do have the Grim Reapers, which are very annoying. I mean, those things take, they show up on the first level and they take 10 arrows to take out.
They are best avoided. Yeah.
And they call ads.
Yeah. Yeah. And what cracks me up is, I mean, I know on the NES they make this weird little goofy warbling noise when they're hollering.
Yeah.
But on the Famicom version, they make this like kind of sound when they're screaming. It's like some kind of weird bird or something. Oh man, it's hilarious. And they're just you're like, oh my god, what is that?
Yeah. We had some newer players they were playing the game, and they were having a lot of trouble with, the Grim Reapers, and that's one of the things I remember having a lot of trouble with when I had first played the game. But several of them you can really skip, and you learn that technique when they turn their back. They do that little fake out too.
Yeah. They'll take a little step, and then I flip real quick, like yeah. I got you.
But a lot of them are avoidable by just kind of jumping over them and skipping them, and I found myself doing that quite a bit in the game.
They're my favorite enemy because they're so animated. Like the rest of them don't really do anything, but they just flip out, right? They're my favorite.
I guess the let's see, we covered the enemies. We talked about the Plutons.
Did you want to talk about the level structure and kind of how everything is laid out?
Sure. With the game, there's kind of you basically start in the underworld. It's kind of a neat way that it's laid out. You start in the underworld, of course. You Thin Lizzy plays, and you have your jailbreak. And then your second level, sort of the overworld, which is you move from a vertical scrolling game to a horizontal. You go Sky World, which is vertical, yippee, again. Mm-hmm. And then your final level is which is just only one board, is your Sky Palace, which is bizarre. And I know, and we'll talk about that in a sec, but I know that there are some really crucial differences between the Nintendo version and the Disk System version on that.
Yeah, it's a whole different ball game.
Yes. But it's
I really like it. It's a nice variety, right? And then you have the crazy maze levels to separate everything out.
It is. It's a very nice variety. I mean, it keeps you on your toes. You're not bored. And it's a really cool structure of the game. I mean, if you think about it, really fits well into the story of the game. Where you're starting out in the underworld and you're trying to get to the Sky Palace to fight Medusa. So of course, if you're in the underworld, you're trying to make it to the surface. When you're on the surface, you're traveling horizontally, to get to the portion of the game where you can start climbing. And then once you're up there, you have that one board in the sky, that goes back to a vertical scroller, which is kind of neat.
So. Answer me this. Do you think, because Pit starts out in the underworld, is Pit dead?
That's not my impression. My impression is that Medusa was from the underworld and her underlings captured him and took him down there. So that was my impression. I think maybe something I had read somewhere as well.
Yeah, I think I read the same thing, that he was just imprisoned.
Right.
Right, but I mean, they're not going to come out and say, yeah, you're a dead guy. That's kind of, but... Yeah. Think about, you're starting out in the underworld, right? You got to climb your way out of the underworld.
Yeah. All of a sudden, you're right. All of a sudden, this Kid Icarus is now the sixth sense. You didn't know you were dead the entire time. You get to the end. Hey, thanks for saving me. Oh, you're dead. You got to go back to the underworld.
Well, she kind of uses her magic power on him at the end, right?
Yeah. Makes him all grown and stuff.
Maybe if you did well enough.
Yeah. Because he's just kind of smiling the whole way up. So.
Well, wouldn't you if you got to meet a Greek goddess when you finished?
No, she's kind of green.
Yeah. Well, anyway. So I'm curious. What was your guys' favorite level?
You want to tackle that one first, Steven? What did you like the best?
Yeah, actually, I was surprised, but I think World 3 was the one I had the most fun with.
Oh, okay.
I thought for sure it would be the horizontal scrolling levels, but I didn't think one of the revisiting of the vertical levels would be my favorite.
You got a little kickback, a little allusion there to Metroid as well. The few of the enemies.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure Research and Development 1 had a little something to do with that, putting those in there.
Yeah, some little Metroid-looking enemies there, right?
I don't know if they were Metroid-looking or if they were just Metroids.
they're Metroid.
A little smaller than Metroid.
I
Sure.
saw them in the manual. They are Metroids.
That's my favorite level as well. I really like the music is good. I really like those bad guys. I don't know why they're not hard at all, but they're like the armored knight, and they have like the little birds that are flying around them, and you have to kind of take them all out. I like those levels. They're really good.
Yeah, I did too. I mean, and like Steven said, by the time you're powered up that much and you make it to that level, it's very, it's kind of comforting. It's nice to kind of revisit it and really kick its butt, So it's a really nice feeling. I also like the first. I also like World 2. I think a lot, just because of it breaks up the monotony of the game a little bit, and and just really just really like moving horizontal. It felt more like to me, it felt more like a platformer.
Yeah.
On that level, and so I think that's why I enjoyed it a lot more. Very, very rarely do you have platformers where you're just going to be moving upwards or downwards the entire time. So, so that was probably my favorite when it came to that. All right. Well, what do you guys think? It's interesting. This game did not get really rave reviews when it came out. And one of the things that was knocked on the game was the music. And I'm really interested to hear how you felt about that.
Come on, man. It's good music. I mean, I really like it. I don't know why somebody would knock on that. I mean, like, I can sit and every time I think of any of the worlds, I can sing you the tune, right?
Yeah.
It pops
I'm
right
with
into
you.
my head.
I'm with you. As I was reading, about this game, I felt it was really bizarre that that's one of the things that people chose to attack. I understand the difficulty. I mean, I understand why people would attack that. But the music I thought was probably one of the best parts of the game. My thought is what happened is people didn't make it past the first level, so they had to hear that music the entire time and never got to listen to any of the other music.
It's still a good tune, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good tune.
It's epic.
Yeah,
but
it's upbeat, you know?
Bubbly. Very bubbly, very positive epic.
Yeah, my least favorite is the palace music, right? Ugh.
Yeah.
It's so monotonous, right?
Yeah. Though
like, oh, come on, man, no.
Yep. The final music's some of my favorite too. I like the boss battle music with Medusa. I think the music there, it's very short, but I do like it.
Yeah. And like the Famicom Disk System version, the opening theme and the ending theme have some extra sound channel FM synth to it, so it sounds even better.
It's the Famicom music's always better.
That's right.
Get Castlevania 3 just for the music. It's so much better.
Mr. probably bought Castlevania 3, didn't you?
No, I don't have
What?
it. No, same game.
You are so wrong. Okay. I'm going to drop the mic and I'm out.
It's a little pricey, too.
No, it's not. I've seen the stuff you've bought. I'll buy Hibarike, but no, I can't spend Castlevania money.
Well.
All right, this is not the Collectorcast. Go ahead.
It's a good point. But yeah, the disc system music is much better. And I often like to do that when I'm playing games that I know that were also made in Japan. I like to go to YouTube and find the music and just listen to the differences. And I know one that we did when we did Phantasy Star. I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah,
the difference, for that game. But there, we've kind of hit on it a few times, but there are quite a few differences in the disc version. You said the better music.
Yeah.
You also have to flip your card, don't you?
You do. I mean, that's pretty typical of disc games, is they have two sides. So the way almost all of them work is you put in side A to start the game. You'll get the title screen. That will usually get to your save data, and then you usually have to flip the card to actually play. And then usually towards the end of the game, you'll flip back to the front, and if you want to save, you have to flip back to the front. So it's pretty common stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And as you were mentioning saves, I mean, this game, it has, from what I understand, it has 3 save slots.
Yep, it's just like Metroid and Kid Icarus and Castlevania are all just, the save screens look just like, pretty much just like the Zelda save screen in the US.
Right, wow. Yeah, that was one of the things that someone had mentioned in the threads, was that, they couldn't understand why we did not have a save. I mean, because you had Zelda, which had a save, and why they were using the password system at this point, which was sort of bizarre.
Yeah, and I think I had mentioned that too. I had wondered if they'd started down that road and maybe there was an issue with cost, because if you look at those games, they're actually on the board that can accept a battery. So all they would have to do is program it and add a battery. It's the same thing. So they could have done it. They probably started down that path, and then for whatever reason, probably a cost issue, cut it.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
Mm-hmm. Could you imagine Zelda with a password system?
I can't imagine any game now with a password system. I
feel for you guys. It's rough. It's much easier to save to a disc.
But you know what? With my game, it was awesome because I played on the Retron, and you just cut it off and you turn it back on and you start where you left off.
That's perfect. What about you, Steven? Did you have to write down all these passwords?
Yeah, well, I had to enter a 26-digit password every time I started the game. So.
Did you now?
And this one's horrible because there's tons of different characters, like small letters and stuff, right?
Yep. Yeah, uppercase, lowercase, numbers.
Oh, it's terrible.
Dude, don't feel bad for him. He's 28. He never had to do it.
Oh, he's a youngin'. You got to earn your stripes.
I had an NES back in the day. I didn't have it very long before the Super Nintendo came out, but
whippersnappers.
He had an NES back in the day and just was smart enough not to buy Kid Icarus. I kid. To get frustrated
classic.
And quit playing video games forever.
It's a classic. It is a little bit wrong though that for the classic series we got Zelda and we got Metroid, but didn't get a Kid Icarus classics.
Yeah. Are you talking about on the
NES re-releases?
Oh, okay. Well, how about the Game Boy Advance? We didn't get it there either, did we?
I think they did in Japan.
Japan, they did. It was a yellow cart to match the color of the Famicom disc.
Oh, that's so awesome. Now I know I need to go get one.
Japan is so much better than us.
It really are.
I know. Yeah, we wouldn't be going through this Majora's Mask debacle in Japan.
No! Or Europe! We wouldn't go through it in Europe either. Thank you, in a way.
But another difference in the disc system is that there is no carryover, as I understand, on the second playthrough. You just start the game completely over.
That's correct, since it's a high score system, right? Because the save screen, when you go to load your file, that has the top scores. So it's a high score game. So no, you don't get to start over. You got to get high score on one run.
Yep. And for all you people in North America who have this game on your Nintendo, and if you're crazy enough, you can play the game again. But know this, you will start with your weapon upgrades. You will have everything that you had from the treasure rooms, and you will start with all of those weapons. So if you play through it the second time, it's kind of nice. You can kind of breeze through those first few levels.
Weak Americans need a leg up.
And know what that's like. And there's actually an arrow upgrade room at the beginning there, and I don't know how you get that. I don't know how many points you have to have. I didn't do any.
You can't, unless you wrap around.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you wrap around, you get a 6th arrow upgrade there? Or?
If you don't have your max yet, you can get there.
Oh,
get an arrow
I see.
upgrade.
I see. Okay. But there is the 5 max period.
Yeah.
There's no diamond-studded pit.
I don't think so. No.
He just comes out looking like Elton John.
No, that's not in the game. Sorry.
All right. We talked about the high score. Let's see. Here's the oddest thing, Steven. I want you to picture what Chris had to do to play this game on the last level.
No.
The screen, in the North American version, the screen auto scrolls,
and Pit just flies.
Right.
He just flies, and you just guide him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Shoot arrows, no big deal. In the Famicom version, it does not auto scroll. You are going, and you have to make him fly.
You have to hit jump to make him fly.
Yeah, you have to
keep
use
tapping it.
You have to use the A button to make him fly and shoot, because all these things are coming at you. And it's not auto-scrolling, so you better be good. Because, yeah. So it's tough, which makes the level make more sense to me, though, honestly,
Right.
because as an auto-scroller, there's some of the parts that really didn't, like, why is this sort of the way it is? But when you have to do it manually, it's tougher, and it makes more sense.
Yeah, they easy moded that thing for North America.
Oh,
because
seriously.
Not only do you not have to fly and push your button to flap your wings or whatever, but you can also pass through like walls and obstacles on the North American version. Not the case on the Japanese version.
And I want you to imagine, all right, because you guys had the easy Medusa fight, which is just float and shoot.
Right.
I have to try to fly and shoot and dodge to kill Medusa.
You want a cookie?
No slow clap, no nothing.
No,
I mean, I get silence.
Just silence.
I think the easier level is just our compensation for not having a save system.
I think they probably went like, this is hard enough. Kids will be ticked off if we don't make this easier or something.
Well, the kids didn't even get that far, probably. So
It probably did. I did as a kid. What are you talking about?
Yeah, so did I.
I got there.
So Jerry was like, I never met a kid that beat this game. I was like, well, you have now.
That's right. I beat the Ninja Gaiden games back then. So there you go. But yeah, it's very tough. It's very tough. I mean, I barely beat Medusa. I think I had like one sliver of health left.
yeah, I was exactly the same.
But on the North American version, because I played it enough, there's a magic spot where you can hover and not get hit.
Yes, I just by chance I happened to find that spot when I was down to my last sliver of health. And, I was very fortunate to find it because I didn't want to replay it.
If you get in that groove, the only thing you have to do is you have to time your arrows up with the head of that snake.
No, I didn't even have to do that.
Really?
Yeah, if there's a certain spot you can stand in, you can just wail on her.
Huh.
Except if you're playing my version. Good luck. Dodge all the snakes and the laser beams and fly and shoot the eyes. There you go.
They should have made it where you had to blow into your controller.
Just yell at her, "Die, Medusa!" That would have been hilarious.
Just watching people play that game would have been so much better. There would have been videos. Oh, are you going to record my gameplay? No, I'm going to record you.
Right. On your giant VHS camcorder.
So, just sort of kind of wrapping it up here. How does this game hold up over time? I mean, that's sort of my question.
I'll let Steven go because I want to hear a different perspective.
Yeah, I have a different perspective having not played the game before the playthrough. I think it holds up pretty well, actually. It's just kind of the tried and true run, jump, and shoot gameplay. And once you get past that whole first world, it's actually a lot of fun.
Would you recommend it to a friend?
Not any of my friends. But, people who like really challenging games, yes.
I like my friends. I don't want them to go away.
A bunch of Call of Duty guys or something? Is that it?
Yeah, not. Well, no, they're into retro games, but I just don't think they would stick through World 1.
Oh, wow. So what do they play then? Like Big Bird's Hide and Speak or what?
Oh, I mean, no. They like playing games like, your Contra and stuff, but I don't think they've ever beaten them.
Oh, really? What a shame.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, for me, it was like going back and visiting an old friend. I mean, I haven't beaten Kid Icarus, and let's just pretend and say it's been a while. That's enough.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it kind of just came right back to me. It wasn't that bad, and I just kind of felt right at home with it. It's kind of like going back and, enjoying that piece of your childhood again. It was really pretty satisfying to beat it. So for me, it holds up great. But again, I've got a lot of nostalgia for it.
Yeah. Yeah, for me it was going back and visiting that old friend that you didn't like.
Says you.
You're like, I don't like you, man. And you're kind of like, oh, well, he's not that bad. He's not that bad. And then, you get further away from it and you realize, yeah, I still like that guy.
It's kind of like the bully that you want to be friends with, but
Yes.
doesn't want to be friends with you.
That's a great analogy. That's
You're like, I can win him over. Nope, not happening.
But-
Taking your lunch every day.
But I do have a great history with this game, and that's why I wanted to revisit it, and that's why I picked it. I thought it'd be nice to start the new year off with something from my past, something that I have fond memories of. Try not to kick a chair through a window this time, and just it's a game that doesn't garner a lot of love from a lot of Nintendo people. It was a game that lay dormant for 21 years before they, needed some characters for Smash Brothers, basically, and sort of brought it back out. And to me, that's really sad. I think this is one of the games where I was always like, why are they not making more of this game? I mean,
Could you imagine a Super Nintendo version?
Oh, like a 2D, just it would have been incredible. I don't know what stopped them from, pursuing that. It's such a. It has, of course, the mythology is completely wrong in it, but it has a nice little story. It has a nice little, mythology, a nice little world of its own, I guess you could say. Metroid's got its space world, and it's, Zelda's got its very, fable, legendary world, and this has its just sort of like, kind of Grecian world of, something that's on its own, and I can't imagine why nothing was ever made for this, or why they just chose to stop making these games.
Knowing Nintendo, they probably did start up some projects from time to time, but they, from what I understand, they'll ramp a project up, and if they just don't think it's up to snuff, they'll just table it. And maybe they come back to it, maybe they don't. So it wouldn't surprise me in a Nintendo vault somewhere if there were some, at least prototypes of a 16-bit version or something sitting somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
That's Nintendo.
So how would you compare this game to, like, the other big hitters at the time? I mean, Kid Icarus came in a silver box, just like Metroid. And then you had Zelda that came in the gold box. This is it right here, guys. This is the gold box. This is the gold game.
Yeah, they all came out pretty much about the same time.
Yeah. And of course you had the stepchild Rad Racer. But we'll ignore that for now. And
why in God's name did that get a silver box?
I have no idea.
I'd have no idea either.
But how do you think, like, it compares to these early Nintendo adventure games, Metroid and Zelda? I mean, I think it holds its own, in certain respects. It's
they were the Disk System trio, right? So Zelda was basically the launch game. Pretty close to that and then there was like Mario 2 with the Disk System, and then those other games came pretty close after to take advantage of the save feature, which, I could imagine, because before that there was really very little option for having huge worlds in games. From 1986,
Right.
So that was a big feature, and I think it holds up really well. I mean, they're different types of games, certainly, but I think if you take Kid Icarus for what it is, which is a hybrid action shooter
RPG.
with RPG, yeah, I think if you take it what it is and not try to make it like one of the others, or say it should have been like one of the others, because it isn't. Mm-hmm. I think if you take it on its own merit, I think it stands up wonderfully.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a great game. It's just it's just a real shame it didn't garner, like I said, the success of the others. And I think a lot of it probably had to do with the production of the game. I think it was rushed. It was put out, rushed. it probably should have been a longer game. They had levels designed for it, additional levels designed for it, but they just didn't have the time to finish it and do that. And I think it would have probably been a little crisper game had they play tested a little more and, not really rushed it out the door, and probably been, just as memorable as, say, Metroid or Zelda. But I think today when you say Kid Icarus, people know the game. I mean, I don't think it's one of those titles that someone's, going to stumble across and be like, oh, here's Kid Icarus. I've never heard of that. Even though it, lay dormant for, a lot of years. It does have quite a following.
It makes me wonder if the younger kids that just know Pit from Smash Brothers even would understand that Kid Icarus has Pit in it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Because it doesn't really say Kid Icarus anywhere.
Oh, really? See, I've never played the Smash Brothers game, so...
Yeah.
So it's just Pit.
Yep.
You got to do like me with these newfangled amiibos. I see these names and I'm like, what is this from? I have no idea.
You need to expand your Nintendo library.
Yeah, so I have to, the old guy has to look these things up, put on my little bifocals, and to do that. So.
Get out of the rocking chair, Grandpa. Play Nintendo.
So just to wrap up, all you youngins out there, 1, kill stuff. 2, don't die.
That's the plan. That's the Nintendo game plan.
That's the old nuts and bolts of it right there.
That's right.
Do you guys have any other final thoughts on the game, or something you wanted to say about it that maybe we didn't cover?
I think you did a really good job of kind of wrapping everything up and talking a little bit about the history of the game. And I would just say, I was really glad that you guys decided to play that. And maybe we could see some more Nintendo games in the future. Hint, hint.
Yeah, absolutely. Love to revisit some of those. Glad you took the time to play with us this month. I know you have a busy schedule. You have some crazy kids like I do, and things are busy around the old Duke Castle.
It is challenging at times, but you make time when you need to.
Yeah, absolutely. We were really happy to have you along. And Steven, wonderful to have you along as well. I was kind of hoping you wouldn't beat the game, so I would have something to brag about and hold over you, but you did, and of course, congratulations.
Thank you. That's why you call me the Beast.
That's right. I just wish you wouldn't have gotten that good ending. That did put salt in the wound, because I was 15 hearts short from that good ending. I could not make that up in the last level.
I spent a little time grinding in 3-4 right before the boss of that level, just to make sure I would have enough hearts.
Wise man.
Yeah, wise man. All right, guys. Well, thanks a lot. Appreciate you joining us this month for the Retro Podcast. Next month, we're going to be playing a little bit of a Super Nintendo Classic. Steven's going to be hosting that. You want to tell them what it is, Steven?
Yeah, it's going to be The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past.
Yeah, great game. Big hitter, big classic. So we're going to have a lot of fun with that. All right. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, so I listen to rap music, and I have been for like a long time, but I was never into 50 Cent because I always thought his delivery was like really lazy, and I know it's like he's more of one of those like laid back type of rappers, but it was almost like too laid back for me.
It's like couch rap.
Right, but before we started playing the game, I actually borrowed a copy of Curtis or The Curtis, I don't remember, the album that I think is most closely tied to this game, and I ended up kind of liking it. I don't know if it's going to be permanently in my rotation, but I like the music that was in the game that we're about to talk about. But yeah, now 50 Cent is kind of on my iPod. He's part of my musical universe thanks to this game.
Yeah, I think I've never really listened to any of his music before. I've listened to like some of the popular songs that came on the radio, like like Candy Shop and In the Club, And my wife, of course, she listens to a lot of pop music, so I've basically heard that through her. But I'd never heard. I mean, I've heard the kind of the made for radio stuff, but never really listened to any of the more kind of gangster rap that he does. And it was fairly enjoyable in this game. I thought it fit very well.
Right. I know, Steven, you're more of a hard rock, heavy metal guy, right? You don't really listen to rap at all.
Yeah, you're asking the wrong person for their rap opinion.
My rap knowledge is fairly limited too. I think most of my rap knowledge is like old school rap, like Run DMC, and anything modern that I listen to is probably more indie kind of rap music. So,
right. So, 50 Cent Blood on the Sand is a third-person shooter. It was published by THQ in 2009. It was actually developed by Swordfish Studios, which they do not have a huge resume, and they were actually closed down in 2010. But they did make another game that I particularly liked, which was a game called Cold Winter on the PS2, which is kind of just a crazy third-rate first-person shooter, but it was like super gory and kind of over-the-top funny, but still really dark. It was a cool game, and you can pick it up cheaply nowadays, and I would recommend it to anybody who likes first-person shooters. But they basically only made this Cold Winter a rugby game and Brian Lara International Cricket 2005. So
it's quite a diverse resume.
Interesting resume for Swordfish Studios. But at least they blessed us with this awesome game that we played for our modern playthrough of January 2015, the first one of the new year.
I had actually never heard of Swordfish Studios until now, so to find out that they've done like 4 or 5 games is kind of impressing me right now.
Yeah, that's an odd mix for sure as far as games that they've made. But and being such an odd mix, doing rugby games and things like that. I mean, you've got a game like this that's I mean, it's not a groundbreaker, but it's a fun game, and it has some really smooth mechanics, and for a first-person shooter, and from the limited amount of first-person shooters I've played, to be honest.
Third-person shooter.
Third-person shooter, I'm sorry. See, I can't even get that right. It was a lot of fun and enjoyable.
Did any of you guys play the first game, 50 Cent Bulletproof?
No.
Never.
No, I didn't.
Nobody?
No. Did you?
Okay. I did not. That one actually doesn't quite have the cult status that Blood on the Sand does. It didn't really get it didn't get the like critical acclaim that Blood on the Sand did. Like Blood on the Sand was more of a like, oh, surprise, this is actually a good game, but it seems like Bulletproof was just your run of the mill bad licensed game. So I didn't have a chance to check that one out. I was just curious.
That's interesting, this being the second in the, I guess, series, if you want to call it that. It's interesting that, for me, with the subject matter, it's kind of, it's 50 Cent, so it's a rap star. It's kind of goofy. You would think, like, most people just kind of mail it in. You know what I mean? Like, people wouldn't take it seriously, developers, being put on such a project. But, I was pleasantly surprised with, how much fun it was.
Yeah, it's probably easy to, like, because, like, I guess even within the rap community, 50 Cent is pretty big. So they can just ride his coattails, basically, and just, slap his name on there, put his image in there, and just make an otherwise mediocre product. But, it was solidly made. Shooting mechanics were good, and cover was good. Overall, it's pretty decently made game.
Yeah, so who would like to go over the story of the game? Because this is really deep, and it'll probably take up most of our discussion here.
Let's give it to the new guy.
It's not much to the story, but I still wasn't paying too much attention
to it.
You don't say. So
I'll give you. You
okay.
can sum up the story in 4 words.
Yeah,
Bitch
they
took my skull.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, so basically, 50 Cent's playing a rap concert in some unnamed Middle Eastern country, and he after the show he goes back to collect his payment, which he learns has been stolen. So right before he's about to bust a cap, and the guy running the show, the guy offers him a diamond-encrusted skull, which is apparently priceless. And about 5 minutes after that, that gets stolen. And that's
And
pretty
it's
much
just a
the
wild
point of
goose
the game.
chase for that,
Trying to get
skull,
that
right?
skull back.
Yeah, exactly. There's some like the bad guys change, and it's like who's working for who, and in the end you find out it's actually an American dude who's paying off the terrorists or whatever. Who cares?
Yeah,
At the end, you get the skull back. Game over. The credits roll.
Some very predictable plot twists.
Yeah.
As far as
exactly.
Yeah, all
bad
around.
guys
That's
switching
the other thing you could say about the game. You can't trust anybody. I mean that's throughout the story that gets said, and it's it's true, and you know what's gonna happen. There's gonna be these twists and turns, and
right. You got to give them credit for throwing in this. There are side characters, and they all have good, pretty decent dialogue and everything. So
big fan of the guy that owned the strip club.
Right? Yeah, he was.
Was that your highlight of the game?
No, I'm just a fan of that guy. He was just awesome looking with the little hat on and everything. He was just funny, cracked me up.
Yeah, so all right, so now that we got the story out of the way, we can get into what was actually fun about the game, which was the gameplay. I played through my first playthrough to just set up the playthrough was solo, but the game is actually designed as a co-op 2-player shooter, and you actually, even if you're playing solo offline, you pick a sidekick who is controlled by AI if you're playing alone, because there's all these like little contextual co-op actions. It's a lot like Resident Evil 5 or Gears of War, a lot of games that have this same kind of thing, but it works well in this game. And I actually played some co-op with Steven for a couple hours a couple nights ago, and that was a lot of fun running around, and actually does put a lot of life into the game that otherwise isn't there if you're playing alone.
Yeah, I would agree. I played it alone, and I could see it being a lot of fun. Like my brother, who doesn't live in the same town as I do, if we played it together, I think it would be tremendously fun game. If I can ever set it apart some time to do that. But I just kind of curious. I know in the solo game, you have a partner, and the partner will go down, and you can go over and basically tag him and bring him back to health. Is it the same way in the co-op, or is that different?
Yeah, co-op works exactly the same.
Okay.
Which makes playing co-op way easier because
Yeah.
if you lose all your health in single player, it's just game over.
Yeah.
Co-op, you're able to be revived by your partner.
Yeah. Seems like that would be a lot of fun.
I commented in the thread that we notice how easy the game is in co-op, and I thought, well, there's not much difference in the difficulty levels, but then Steven explained that it actually was because we were playing co-op.
Yeah. We were playing on hard, and once I started playing solo, I had to put it back on normal.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some, I'll be honest, I played it on easy. I just wanted to play through the game. I don't play a lot of modern games. I just got my PS3. I'm getting used to the controls, though I have PS2, and so I'm fairly used to those controls anyway. But being a first time to, like a third-person shooter, not playing a lot of those, I just wanted to play through the game and have fun, But, I even, on easy, I got to some parts that were kind of crazy where people are coming out from different sides. You'll take out one group, and people come out from another side, and they'll be right behind you. And so, in certain parts of the game, I could see if I had it on a higher difficulty setting, it would have been a lot tougher game.
Yeah, it can get hairy. I did die a couple times, even on my solo easy playthrough, but for the most part I was just invincible.
Just
running around.
Just hide behind the wall for a little while and get your health back up. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was that's one of kind of the features I believe in, like a lot of the Call of Duty games. So I was kind of used to that mechanic. The duck and cover stuff, not so much, but so I had to
that's a
learn that.
big thing in modern games, Rich, is the cover-based shooter.
Yeah,
I
know
pretty much
Gears of War
since-
was really big for that. So.
Gears and Resident Evil for not really cover shooter, but the over-the-shoulder thing came from there, and Gears evolved it. So yeah, that's the kind of game we have here. But what I love about it, it's that kind of game, but it's basically an arcade game. I mean, I said it to Steven while we were playing, and I probably said it on the forum, that this is basically, if Gears of War were on the Sega Dreamcast, it would be this game, because it's an arcadey, looty, like there's these challenges popping up on the screen as you're playing, and you're smashing through crates, getting gold and getting money, and watching your score rack up like a slot machine, and it's just all kinds of bells and whistles, and the checkpoints are all over the place, and they're crazy, and you got stages like, scores popping up every 10 minutes going through the game. So it's not, like Gears of War is one of those games, and we've talked about this with modern games, it's one of those games that's trying to be more like a movie, more like one of these Hollywood style AAA new school games. But I think Blood on the Sand takes it back to a really cool arcadey feel with what you're doing. What did you guys think of that? Did any of y'all notice that, or
that arcade
key in on it? Like
that arcade comparison is pretty accurate, because that's really how it feels, and it's kind of like silly and mindless, and like everything cranked to 11. It's like you got the adrenaline going, and the music's pumping in the background, so it's definitely has that feel, especially when you take out guys and you get points for, like, bonus points for headshots, or for taking out somebody before they hit you. Probably would,
a little timer too.
It had like a almost bullet time type thing. Was it like gangster time? But no, like I played it on solo, so I guess I missed out on some of the fun that co-op would have. But I definitely got a good feel of the game, and I picked up on that arcade feel too. And the Gears of War thing it's mechanically a good comparison as well, whereas like Gears is more serious, and like you said, it tries to be a movie, and it's really like Hollywood, Michael Bay type stuff, and this is more just like silly and fun.
Yeah, I agree with that, and that's a big credit to the people that designed this game, is that they knew, like, they were doing a game with a rap star in it, and they're like, well, let's make this fun. And I think, like, adding those arcade elements, adding like things like if when you kill someone, you've got a timer that counts down, and if you kill a second person and a third person before that timer goes out,
you can change
you get
your
bonus
things.
points. And I think, like, those additions to this game and that sort of arcadey style is really what makes it stand out and what makes it fun. And you mentioned the cutscenes in games like Gears of War, how they make it like a movie. Well, it definitely had cutscenes, but they weren't like super lengthy. They weren't overly time consuming. You just kind of jump back in and you keep playing the game. And for that reason, I think that sort of added to the arcade feel too, because you'll play a game at the arcade, you'll get a short to moderate cutscene, and then you'll just kind of move on.
Well, those cutscenes were almost like not really cutscenes per se. They kind of just outline your next objective.
Sure. Absolutely.
Did you guys use the taunts at all? Because that just makes everything even sillier and adds to your point multipliers and everything. It's such a crazy mechanic, but it just fits the game so well.
No, I didn't do any of that. I think I bought like every weapon though, and most of the what were they called, like counterattacks or counter kills or something?
Yeah.
I didn't buy any of that stuff. I just bought weapons. I mean, I don't know. I mean, for me, and not playing a lot, I just didn't do any of the hand-to-hand combat. I maybe twice,
You know what? I didn't
hand-to-hand
either.
combat.
Yeah, I didn't buy any of those counter kills either because
You don't really need them.
I mean, the shooting was good enough. Right, exactly.
I didn't buy any of them, but I actually used it quite a bit. The melee attacks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because you're essentially invulnerable while you're doing it because it goes in that little separate screen. Yeah, quick time event. It's like a separate screen, and so I would just run up to guys sometimes and just press the melee button and run through that little sequence.
I wish.
Did you use that like tactic? I'm sorry. Did you use that tactically, as in like to like kind of regroup if things were getting hairy? Like
sometimes I would
kind of lock in with a guy and
generally if just any enemy was really close, I would just go into melee. But yeah, sometimes there were times where I was being shot from all angles and I was like, oh, there's a guy there. I can go into this, quick time sequence and be invulnerable for a few seconds and thin the numbers a little bit.
Yeah, and you get a really good point multiplier for doing that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right, and then taunt them a couple times and you're on your way.
Well, I didn't buy any of the upgrades for that. I know when you're in that like melee combat, you're basically doing like you're pushing one button, right? I mean, you're just I mean, do you have to push any other combination of buttons for the upgrades or anything like that?
Not that I've seen, but I didn't actually buy any of the other counter kills. I only had the default ones, but I only saw for PS3 it's going to be circle. For Xbox 360 it's the B button.
Yeah.
You just have to time the B button press. And
yeah, I mean, I don't know.
That's funny. I was curious if it was only the B button because I was playing on easy, and if it was like more complicated, sequences if you were on harder difficulties. But it doesn't sound like it.
I was playing on normal most of the time, and it was just B.
Wow, that's funny.
Yeah, I know. It seems like they could have done a little more with that, and made it. I mean, not make it like Parappa the Rapper or anything where you're like having to go crazy, but something where you can either kind of break sequence with the buttons to try to complete it, or as you move on, or you can institute like different types of attacks if you press different buttons at different
just
times,
map different attacks to different buttons or something, right?
Yeah, that would have been nice. But all in all, and as we said, I mean, none of us really used it that much, so
I don't even think it was like
it would have been worth putting time into that.
I don't even think it was like integrated that well into the game because there's that only one mandatory hand-to-hand fight scene, like right at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, you can just sort of, run and gun and pop in and out of cover. I think I only used it like twice.
Yeah. The rest of the time, you're just busting caps.
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of busting caps, what kind of guns were you guys using? I actually bought a heavy machine gun about halfway through the game and just kind of leaned on that the whole game. And then when I ran out of bullets on that, I found that the pistol, which has infinite ammo, was kind of overpowered, and you could almost, if you combine that with like the bullet time mechanic, you could like pistol snipe your way through the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I relied on the pistol. I think I eventually got the dual wield thing for the pistols. But like regarding the guns, like I'm the worst person to ask about like what weapons did you use because I don't know the names of any of those things.
Yeah, well, they're like kind of letters and number type.
Yeah, guns, and then like that's never going to stick in my memory. So I just use some like
there's different types. I mean, did you use like a submachine gun, a heavy machine gun, a shotgun, or like that? That's kind of
okay. In that case,
like the model numbers.
No, probably just like heavy machine guns mostly, and then the dual wield pistols.
Yeah, and it's a neat mechanic because you've with your D-pad. I don't know what it is on the Xbox, but you use your D-pad to select one of 4 types of weapons. You've got a machine gun, which is kind of long range. You've got your pistol, which is unlimited ammo. You've got a sort of a close or medium range weapon, and then you've got a heavy artillery weapon like a rocket launcher or a grenade launcher or something.
Yeah, it's the exact same setup.
Yeah, and I thought that was kind of neat. I really liked that sort of setup. I ended up getting the Uzis at one point, and those were a lot of fun up close.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you ran in a room with a lot of people as you turned the corner, in more of the tighter areas we were going through, like the corridors and stuff, I would have those equipped and I would just spray.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a lot of fun to run into rooms and just start spraying. So,
and I think that was a good choice over like the traditional weapon wheel where you have so many weapons to choose from. To just limit it to 4, or like one of each kind, was a really good decision.
That's right. Yeah, I like that. I like that better than just carrying one at a time and then have to do like some like kind of scrolling mechanic, to try to find it. And just being able to press a D-pad direction and select it. That was quick and a lot of fun. Yeah, great mechanic.
Yeah, I bought the M4A1 assault rifle very early on. I think in my first play session with the game, and I used that for the entire game.
Nice.
I picked up probably the same machine gun you were talking about, Shawn, the heavy machine gun, but I didn't really like it. It seemed like it took too many shots to kill the enemies with it, at least for me. But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say one of the last ones I picked up, I could usually one-shot enemies with that, and it's pretty accurate. So it was one of the last ones, one of the more expensive ones. I think it was the last one on the list.
Like even within each category, like there's like an entry level heavy machine gun or a stronger heavy machine gun, right? So maybe that's it too. Maybe that's why. Steven
I actually started out. I had one early in the game that I had picked up, but then the one I purchased from the payphone, which is the weapon.
Oh, those payphones, man.
Yeah, no, we should mention that. That's kind of cool that you're walking around and you hear a phone ringing and you know that you're near a weapon upgrade station.
I kept thinking that was my phone ringing. My cell phone has the same ring.
That's funny.
It's kind of bizarre in a way. It's like, okay, let me send you these guns through the payphone.
We'll just UPS it to you.
That was a weird mechanic. I think it would have been better if like there was like an airplane drop or like a convoy that came by and threw it out and you could pick it up.
That'd be cool. Or just like some black market gun runner dude.
Should have had the merchant from Resident Evil 4.
That would have been awesome.
Oh man, should we talk about my difficulties with the rocket launcher?
Oh yeah, how you took down
how
you took down helicopters with your pistols?
Yeah,
dude.
first of all, that's
how
crazy.
I roll, man. Come on.
But did you end up figuring out the whole picking up weapons?
I did.
Okay, good.
I did.
Good.
I took out 2 helicopters that were basically a pistol.
How long did that take
awesome.
you?
Well, it's funny. I want to say it's a strange mechanic, but I would use up all of my machine gun, then I would go to my mid-range weapon, use that up, and then I would start using the pistol, because usually things would be too far to hit with a grenade or a grenade launcher or something like that. But the mechanic is you hold, on the PlayStation, you have to hold down square. I was tapping square, couldn't pick anything up, but you have to hold it down for some time, which is it's a great mechanic. Mm-hmm. But I saw weapons on the ground and stuff, and I never picked them up. I was just kind of like, well, I'm not going to pick any weapons up. I don't know why they're lying there. Apparently, I can pick them up somehow, but, of course, I went on the threads, to ask before I even looked at the manual.
Well, honestly, I had a hard time figuring out the weapon switching thing, too. Because, you'd see a weapon on the ground, and then the icon would pop up when you're close enough to it. But you'd think just press the button to switch, right? But I couldn't put it together that you had to hold. I think on 360 it was X, I want to say. Yeah.
Well, let me say, there's just a lot satisfying about using a 9mm to take.
Oh, I'm sure. How it must have taken you forever to do that.
That's gangsta.
Yeah, that's how I roll, man. I use the weapon that I am used to, the 9.
Nice. So I don't, this isn't like the deepest game in the world, and I actually don't even have that much left in my notes. But one thing I wanted to talk about was the level design. And what struck me with this game as I was playing it was that this game was obviously not made on the biggest budget in the world, But I think that they were really smart with the way they guide you through the levels and then guide you back through them and then guide you through them sometimes even a third time, but in a different direction. And the way they flush you through by having enemies come out of different places, and you'll find yourself taking cover on a different object from a different perspective, but you're in the same environment. And again, harkening back to that, like kind of Dreamcast, it's almost like like Zombie Revenge or something, where there's like this like alarm sound that comes that
when the reinforcements are
tells
coming.
you right. It tells you where the enemies. It signals to you, hey, look over here. Yeah. So then you're directed in the direction that they're coming from. And lo and behold, there's, strategic cover placed in front of you. So I think this is really a case where you can appreciate that the designers did a lot with a little with what they had to work with.
Yeah, and you have the little red dots that say danger, and it gives you like an approximation of like how far it is away, as well, right. which was really nice. And like I said, sometimes I would go into rooms and stuff would start coming from other sides. I know one place that was really bad about that was the market, because those like those doors would like raise up, around you to take one group out. So you'd have to really be on your toes and like swing around your cover, and because stuff would start coming from different directions or behind you, and so. I like that mechanic, and one of the things I like playing the solo version, I know you didn't get to play this in the co-op, was that your partner would always give you an indication of which way you needed to go, so you never felt lost or anything like that. I thought that was nice.
I did take advantage of that a couple times playing solo. Oh, shoot, where am I supposed to go next? Okay, just follow Tony Yayo or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that did help a lot. But I liked sometimes when I heard that little danger icon, saw the danger icon and heard the little alarm, that told me throw a grenade through this door immediately, and then sometimes take out like 4 or 5 guys at once.
I did the exact same.
That is a really good tactic.
Yeah, I'm not smart enough to do that. I don't have enough experience with these type of games to even think about doing stuff like that. So.
Yeah.
Oh, the only thing that really gave me a hard time was whenever you'd face those turret-mounted machine gun guys.
Yeah, they were tricky.
That was always a tricky part.
I would use my rocket launcher then.
Eventually,
I used the rocket launcher on those guys.
Eventually, I discovered to just use the rocket launcher on them. But before that, I thought, okay, I'll try to be like tactical and come around behind them or something. But they're usually in hard to get places, so. Definitely made you think a little bit outside the box.
And if you didn't move quick enough, someone else would jump on that gun as well and start firing at you. So you'd have to use another rocket launcher blast. Because, of course, rocket launchers don't damage the guns.
That's right.
So
I'm thinking about that like mansion scene. There'd always be some guy who would take over on the machine gun.
Yeah.
Now, did you guys go for any of the collectibles at all? Like, I was picking up the posters, but I wasn't going out of my way for them. And also the targets that you could shoot, those are pretty cool. If you see one and you can hit it from off in the distance, that was pretty satisfying, even if you knew you weren't going to get all of them. It was cool to find them, like, every once in a while.
Well, I didn't discover the targets until really late in the game. But
I
didn't know about them. The posters, though,
the targets were a lot harder to find.
Yeah, the targets were pretty well hidden. But the posters, I didn't go out of my way either. But if I found one, I took it. Gave you a little nice point bonus.
I would kind of look for them, but I wouldn't obsess over it if I didn't find them all. I mean, I would look, in every room and everything, but I wasn't. Dead set on finding all of them.
So you just do like
they were kind of inside rooms.
You just did a quick once over once the room was clear, right?
Yeah. Or they would be in like little alleyways at like places you would walk past, and they would like end up behind you. I would grab them too, and because they were also, it's additional cash when you grab them too. So you're kind of like, oh, you might as well. It adds to your money total when you do it. So.
Yep.
Felt bad when I was taking down 50-cent posters though. It's like, why would he want to take down his own poster?
Yeah, you should be plastering those all over the place.
Should be tagging.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, as far as the levels were concerned, I agree with you, Shawn. I mean, like, kind of going, the areas kind of going back on themselves, how you would kind of backtrack. Maybe some C4 would pop up that you would end up using, and that was cool. I like the use of the C4 on the tank was a pretty cool mechanic that you really didn't see any other time. But it's still kind of a neat thing to add to the game. So.
One thing I loved about this game that I just want to throw out before I forget is that there were a lot of, there's tons of contextual button presses, especially, well, even if you're playing solo, that you have to do with your partner to open a door, or you can break through a door if there's a barrier,
climb a wall.
But what I love about it, yeah, exactly. The best thing about it is that even if you were like lifting a gate that you could see he was like straining to lift with his big old muscles, that it didn't make you mash on the A button. You just have to hit it once and watch the animation. And I was so appreciative of that, because I'm so sick of, open this door, turn this crank, do this by mashing on the A button. It's like, come on.
That was a pretty nice change, because I mean, like, QuickTime events are pretty big right now, and it's always like to turn a crank, it's like spin the analog stick, or to open something heavy, it's mash this button. But to like you said, press it once and it's done.
And it's done.
And
exactly.
And no matter where he is in the room, he could be like 5 rooms over, and if you hit that, he will eventually
he'll just materialize beside you.
Yeah. And then pull it. But you do have to wait on him. It takes him a while to kind of maneuver around stuff, but he does end up coming. One of my favorite graphics, I really like the boost and the pull up graphic. I thought that was really well done, and it looked really cool. How he would throw you up, and then you would grab his arm and pull him up. That was really neat.
I wonder if that was motion capture, or if it was just computer animation, because it was really smooth.
Yeah, it looked good. I mean, pretty neat.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, there's not a lot of depth here. This is a good arcadey third-person shooter. I think, a lot of people were surprised by how good it was. I wasn't, because I knew what I had heard about it, and, that's why I chose it as our game. I needed something light and fluffy after all the deep RPGs and System Shocks and everything else. I just needed something that I could, turn off my brain and just blow some suckers away, so.
And that kind of describes the game really well. It's just like, you can shut off your brain and just shoot stuff.
Yeah. So
I had honestly,
I hope you all had fun with it. I did.
I had honestly never heard of this game until we played it. And I know licensed games get a bad rap, but this was well done.
What were you saying, Steven?
I was just agreeing with Shawn that I had just come off playing some long-winded RPGs, and this was exactly what I needed, just a game where you just run and shoot guys, and you don't need to think about it, and it was nothing deep going on here. It's probably I wasn't even going to participate in the playthrough until I heard that it had co-op. I mentioned before that I'm not like a rap guy or a fan of 50 Cent, so I was I kind of wrote the game off like I think a lot of people do.
I
heard it had co-op, and I was only going to play it in co-op, but it didn't quite work out. So I still enjoyed it in single player though.
Yeah.
Although I do plan on playing the whole thing in co-op again very soon, actually.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I think I've heard from some people in the community, and I think a lot of people had written it off, and I'd heard from a lot of people why are you guys playing that game? Why that? I mean, we're as a community playthrough, and I realized this, and especially with the 2014 that we had and the games that we played, there were a lot of games that were blockbuster titles, super classics that everyone likes to play through. But I think at least for myself, in a few games that I played last year, and in some I'm going to play this year, they're going to be games that aren't on everyone's radar, games that maybe you've not heard about. And I think playing games like that are as much, if not more, satisfying than playing something you've played through 3 or 4 times, You know it's a good game. You've heard about it. I mean, it's nice to find these like kind of little hidden gems that you didn't realize were on certain systems. And it's the same reason we watch YouTube videos, that people put out, hidden gems on this system or that system. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like you surprise yourself with a game like this. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people who weren't into rap probably didn't even look twice when they heard about this game or when they saw it. But I mean, even if like the music or the theme isn't your thing, like mechanically it's really well made, and it's just a fun little shooter.
Well, let's talk about the music for a second. I mean, I thought the music went really well with the game. I don't know if anybody else. I mean, I don't listen to a lot of rap music, but at the same time, I mean, just the sort of the beat, the way the kind of beat like sways when you're listening to the music, I think it made it for like a more kind of fun and sort of lively atmosphere to be able to like, I mean, I would like crank it up and play, and it just sort of livened the game up for me as far as, having that as opposed to some just sort of, arcadey type music. I just kind of really, enjoyed, the lyrics and,
yeah, like everything matched, right?
Yeah, I thought I thought the music and the gameplay matched up and meshed really well together. I don't know what you guys thought about that.
Like I am by no means somebody who likes rap music, but
exactly,
I thought that it worked really well in this sense. Like it really gets your adrenaline going. Like you said, the beat of the music, and I guess just like the angst that is kind of associated with rap music.
Yeah, the aggressiveness of the lyrics and things.
It all really clicks together and it all works together.
Yeah, I can totally see that. I actually went to the options because I'm such an anti-rap guy. I went to the options and actually really lowered the volume of the music, but I could still kind of hear it. I just couldn't hear it that well, but I could still kind of get the beat from it. Mm-hmm. And I can really see where it does work. It fits pretty well. Obviously I would have probably preferred some heavy metal, but this is a 50 Cent game, not a Slayer game. So
Slayer would work, or maybe Pantera.
Yeah, exactly. We had talked about a little bit about the levels too, but and like I said, I really like the level design, as Shawn mentioned, kind of running back on itself. I do think that the levels got a little redundant sometimes, and there were these few levels. I think there were maybe two or three levels where they kind of broke that up a bit. There was one driving level. There was a helicopter where you shoot from the helicopter level, and then there was a final chase. Those were the only three, correct?
That's right, yeah. And the first driving level wasn't really a driving level. I think you just had to shoot.
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, you drive.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
The first one, you don't shoot. And I guess with co-op, one of you actually shoots, which...
What's funny? When I played with Steven, we're playing co-op, and I was in the gunner's seat, and I said, wow, this is pretty cool. When I played solo, all I could do was drive, and Steven says, all I can do is drive, because I was the one shooting. It was kind of funny, and it dawned on me, what a dumb thing that was to say.
Hey, I'm getting to shoot. What are you doing?
I just get to drive. This sucks, man.
The driving scenes were cool, and I like the mechanic of driving, but I didn't like the fact, like you're mentioning, that you can't shoot and that you're just kind of taking hits from other cars, and losing life, and you can't really dodge that well. You can't dodge the bullets. I mean, I died quite a few times on that final chase because, you can't dodge. I mean, you can crash into the other cars, and I think I don't know if you earn life for doing that, but it almost seems like, that helped me regenerate when I would crash in. Maybe it was because when I crashed them, I wasn't getting shot anymore. But to die on those levels because of that was kind of annoying. I mean, I wish it was more like of a time thing.
Did you know that you could boost while you were driving?
I did not know that.
No, of course I didn't.
Does the bullet time. If you hit it, you would boost while you were driving,
really?
And that was really helpful. Yeah.
Jeez, of course.
I'll have to try that.
Yeah.
I thought it was hilarious in that final driving scene. I would ram into some of the enemy cars. Sometimes I would just barely clip them, and they would just do this exaggerated explosion and just start flipping through the air.
Michael Bay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I would just barely tap them sometimes, and they would just fly off. And then explosion.
Did you hit some of those ramps and do some sweet jumps?
I did.
I hit that one mandatory ramp, and that's it.
Yeah.
I actually got lost during that first driving scene. Because, eventually get to...
How do you get lost? It's a one-way street.
Well,
Awesome.
you get to that roundabout or, cul-de-sac place, and then everything was fenced off. I didn't know you could pass right through the fence.
Oh, okay.
Too much real-life driving.
I stopped at a 7-Eleven to
into
get
me.
directions.
Oh my! What did you guys think of the helicopter turret sequence, though? I actually loved that.
That was my favorite part of the game.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Sometimes I felt like I couldn't. You just didn't have a window that you had to shoot in. You can move it up and down, and sometimes I would have trouble finding where the enemy fire was coming from. But all in all, I mean, that was a lot of fun. Just holding it down and blasting. And I'm going to tell you guys, if you guys like that helicopter scene, man, I have got the game for you. You guys need to play. It's on the Wii, actually. It's called LA Guns. It's an arcade game, and that's all it is. You are in a helicopter, and the screen just flips around, and you just hold the button down, and you just keep firing. And
that sounds really
it was
cool.
an arcade
Downloadable?
game. I don't know if it was or not. Mine's not downloadable. Mine's a disc. But I played this in the arcade. This was several years ago. Some friends and I went to Atlanta and went to Dave & Buster's. And Dave & Buster's has a bar inside, and we just got loaded and played LA Machine Guns all afternoon. And it's that same experience. So if you like that, you need to check that game out. It's really cool. It's LA Machine Guns and something else. Let's see. I'm pulling off my shelf. It's called the Arcade Hits Pack, Gunblade, New York, and LA Machine Guns. So, yeah, you guys check it out. I think it's cheap,
Oh,
too.
yeah, I see it. All right, yeah, I'm going to put that on my radar. Looks like a lot of fun.
So much fun.
Cool, man.
Yeah, that helicopter scene was a lot of fun. I didn't let go of the fire button once.
Yeah. There's something to be said about that.
Yeah, a lot of games where you man a turret like that, the turret will overheat if you hold it down too long.
Yeah.
I really don't like that. I like it when games just let you fire uncontrollably.
Come on,
I like video games that are like John Woo movies.
Yeah,
no reloading whatsoever.
Who needs realism?
No. If they're out the door, I'm already 50 Cent in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Chasing down a diamond-encrusted skull
right.
after playing on stage completely strapped.
Yeah.
Yep.
I thought that's fun. He's on stage and he's got a bulletproof vest. Grenades strapped to his belt. This guy is prepared for war.
Exactly. Well, that does it for me, gentlemen. I don't know if you have anything else to say about the game. Any other notes of importance, but I think we all had a fun time. And
Yeah,
it was a bit of a surprise hit for all of us, I think.
Yeah, and like you said, sometimes it's just awesome just to play something that's fun. It doesn't have to be serious or, something you have to be so serious about beating or something extremely difficult. I mean, just have fun with it, and that was what this month was about. Because Kid Icarus was completely brutal.
yeah, I'm glad I didn't play that. All right, so Floyd, you're going to host our game in February, which is going to be the DS Cult Classic
999.
9 hours, 9 persons, 9 doors. Would you mind giving us just a really, really quick, prelude to what that playthrough is going to be like?
So 999 is one of those choose your own adventure games where your decisions predict the outcomes of various events, but it's a very different twist on what you're probably used to in a choose your own adventure game. Like if you're thinking something like Heavy Rain or like The Walking Dead or The Wolf Among Us, throw all that out the window, because this is going to be a really different experience. I mean, it's very story-driven, and your story can end very abruptly and very unsatisfactorily. But it's something that I've been looking forward to playing for a long time, and something that's been on my radar for probably even longer. And as a big fan of story-driven games, and you know, like those narrative, it's almost like a visual novel. Should be an interesting change, especially when it's coming right after 50 Cent. Yeah, a little bit of a controversial choice, but yeah, I'm hoping to have fun with you guys on this one.
Yeah, I'm going to be joining Floyd on that too, and I'll just say it's a neat game. It's there's a lot of puzzles and stuff that you have to figure out. Each room has a different puzzle, and it's really neat. You know, it's kind of an item grab game, and you have to manipulate and use items and areas to make it out of these rooms. And so, you know, it's got that puzzle element which keeps you on your toes, and you know, it's just a really neat mechanic. And the game's very, very heavily story driven, and I think a lot of people are going to really like the animation and the artwork in this game. And to me, it seems like something that Shawn would really like as far as the artwork's concerned. So yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Nice. And if anybody wants to join us, listeners, log on to rfgeneration.com and check out our community playthrough subforum, and sign up and play and join us and talk about the game with us. Well, that's the show, friends. Thank you for listening, and a very special thank you to everyone who joined the playthroughs, and to our special guest, Duke.Togo, for joining the show. Remember to visit rfgeneration.com to participate in our playthroughs, discuss the games, or leave feedback on this podcast. Join us next month in our playthroughs for February 2015, in which Steven will be hosting The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past for the SNES, and Floyd will be hosting 9 Hours, 9 Persons, 9 Doors, more commonly known as 999, for the Nintendo DS. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time on the RF Generation PlayCast.